Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start with the good news. We're only 40 minutes away from the drinks reception, right? So just stay in the game. I know we've had lots of interesting sessions today, and we'll try to make this last segment as engaging as possible. So indeed, my name is Vivek Bajaj. I actually live in Europe at the moment, in Amsterdam, have lived and worked in the United States for a number of years as well. But I must warn you, I do come originally from India, so if I start bobbing my head like this when I'm speaking, it's completely normal. It's just a cultural difference, right? So bear with me there. So we're going to do this presentation in two parts. The first part is going to take exactly 6 minutes and 40 seconds, right? So you can time it if you like, and it's a good kind of time check. If you don't like what I'm saying, it's a good moment to start the drinks reception early if you like, where I'm going to introduce the concept of cognitive in financial services, why you should care about it. And then I'm going to expand on some real-world examples of your peers who are actually gaining significant value from applying AI in their organizations. All right? Sounds like a plan? All right, let's get going. So the first thing I want to tell you is you should actually not care about AI at all. Who cares about technology? A few years ago, it was big data. Now it's AI. It's about how you can inject these technologies into solving real-world business problems in financial services. If you have an AI project without any business application, it's going to fail. Now, if you look at the society we live in, of course, we live in a highly interconnected society. Economic and political scenario is unstable. But the biggest shift in our society is a shift in power to individual consumers. So our financial services clients know what they want to consume and have much more power in how they consume these services. Now, if you look at our industry, we talked a lot about fintechs today. In the past, fintechs were over there in the corner doing a little bit of stuff in mobile payments. But now they do pretty much everything a bank or insurance company does without being a bank or an insurance company. And you can try to fight them, but I think fintechs are the best source of innovation in the industry. And of course, technology has changed, right? We've gone from predictive analytics to prescriptive analytics to big data to now cognitive computing, where cognitive actually gives you the question that you should investigate further rather than just give you an answer to a rules-based set of questions. And context is crucial, right? So if you ask Google this question, then this is what you're going to get. And that's because Google doesn't understand the context of the question, right? And therefore, it's not about data. It's not about text analytics. It's about actually understanding the context in which you're asking a question. So if you're a business manager trying to run your financial institution, the volume of data is exploding. You've got all kinds of new sources of data like social media, et cetera. Even machines are generating data. What's relevant, what's not relevant, that's really the crucial factor. It's not about more data. It's about getting the insights. So this guy works in a garbage dump in Sao Paulo. I go there very often. Well, not to the garbage dump, but to Sao Paulo, I mean. And what he does is he spends all day trying to extract something of value from a mountain of garbage. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to apply AI and big data techniques to extract insights from large volume of data. And where do you start? You start actually with very specific business use cases where you want to apply. So is it risk and compliance? Is it client insight and engagement? Is it instant and immediate payments? It's really, really important you understand which business issue you're trying to solve before you actually jump ahead. Now, in financial services, the #1 area where we see AI being applied is in the area of customer insight and engagement. So single view of the customer, things like that that we've been trying to achieve for a long time, but segment of one engagement is really, really crucial in application of AI technologies. And who are these clients, right? Your clients nowadays, they're doing iPhone yoga the whole day, right? So it's not about only coming out with a digital platform. It's about being able to deliver the insight through that digital platform to serve these customers in meaningful ways. And I'll share some examples shortly with you of organizations doing that. I actually believe it's not about artificial intelligence. It's about augmented intelligence. It's not about replacing humans. It's about releasing humans to do more higher value-added work so that the monotonous work can be done by machines. It's not that the machine's got to be the smartest person in the room. So content used to be the king, but that game is over, right? Context is the new king, where it's not about who has more information. Everybody's got information. It's about who can extract the value out of the information that's really, really important for you, right? It's not about if you, as Payments Canada has all the payments data, it's more important what can you do with that payments data. So for instance, are you able to predict, are people who spend a lot after 9 p.m. more likely to overdraft than before 9 p.m., right? I did a presentation in Spain recently. This didn't really work there, where everyone dines out after 9 p.m., but you understand the premise of what I'm saying, right? Can you use those payments patterns to detect something? The second area is regulatory compliance. I heard much more about regulatory compliance today than I expected, and I was very glad to hear that, because this is a huge area of application of artificial intelligence capabilities, both on the KYC and AML side, but also on the regulatory compliance side. So KYC, how do you aggregate information on your clients from multiple sources and bring that forward in a meaningful fashion, both from a client onboarding perspective, but also from a perspective of regulatory compliance? How can you prove to the regulator that you've done the due diligence? But it's also about catching bad guys who unfortunately sometimes might be in your own organization, whether it's trade surveillance, voice surveillance, communication surveillance. And you may not want to be big brother for your employees, but the regulator requires you to be if something goes wrong. So it's really, really important to see how you can apply it. And of course, in our friendly old world of payments, right? Both in faster payments as well as in safer payments. Plus blockchain, we heard a lot about blockchain, but this is just coming on tap, and we're seeing the first applications of AI in blockchain projects just coming to the fore. So as a financial institution, you understand master data, transactions, and communications, master data and transactions pretty well, and you've been able to aggregate that information for a while. But the magic happens when you can take communications and sentiment data and use that in cohesion with your internal master and transactional data. And many organizations are implementing a structure called a data lake or a data reservoir to do that, right? So not a physical structure, obviously, but a logical environment with governance around it that allows you to extract insights and apply them to your organization, right? And there's several organizations that have done that successfully. So to conclude, where do you start? You start with the business use case. You actually start as well with existing business projects and existing data that you already have. Many financial institutions get obsessed with getting external data, but you are actually sitting on a significant amount of high-value data that's underutilized. And nothing happens without a good business case. Nobody's got money to invest in an AI science project for a year. The best AI projects that I've seen are 6 to 8 week sprints, which deliver value, not a POC, a real project that delivers value, and only when it pays back does it go ahead. All right, so that's my intro. I can take a breath now, right? Let's now move forward to actually giving you some real-world examples of what projects have been implemented. So IDC did a study. This is an eyesight test for everybody in the room. But actually, I can share the report with you guys. It's easy to read this chart. The columns are the years. So the first column is 2017, the middle column is 2018, and the last column is 2019. And the rows are the level of organizational impact. The bottom row is in one area of the business, the middle row is in a couple of areas of the business, and the top row is enterprise-wide. So of course, consumer mobile payments, significant investment in 2017. But right up top, on the left, behavioral analytics for risk and compliance purposes and counter-fraud detection is going to be the #1 trend over the next 12 months, according to IDC, right? Next year, you're going to see significant cloud-based adoption of solutions, much more than ever before, it becoming really a mainstream technology. And then the final thing I wanted to point out, you see the block there on the right-hand side, number 5, disruptive technologies like AI and blockchain will be in full production in 25% of financial services institutions, right? So it's not really a question of if you're going to implement these capabilities, it's really when and where you're going to implement these capabilities. So again, the use cases are crucial. So when I say the word, when I use the acronym URL, what do you think about? Think of perhaps an internet address, right? Forget about that. The new URL is understand, reason, and learn. That's what a cognitive system does. It looks at the information in context. It sees how the human being is actually auditing that information, and then it learns and gets better over time. We did this with healthcare with our Watson cognitive capabilities for actually addressing cancer, right? Watson became an MD, passed the exam, and now operates as a doctor's assistant. Our next big bet now is financial services, right? Where we're not looking to replace the high-value relationship managers. We're just freeing them up from doing the benign research and that kind of work. So in the first area, I talked about client insight. Let me give you a couple of examples. There are actually 3 flavors, and all of them are valid depending on your commercial strategy. The first flavor, and I'm going to jump over some charts here. Bradesco Bank in Brazil, a project I worked on personally for quite a while, is using the augmented intelligence approach, where the AI system actually never comes in contact with the end customer. So it's about making your own employees smarter. So basically what the situation at Bradesco was they had an internal call center, and don't blame me for these fancy charts, these are their charts, right? I got permission to use them, and they're very visual. But basically they had an internal call center for all their relationship managers, and whenever the relationship managers would call to get complex product information, they had to wait a significant period of time. The call center was handling 7,000 to 8,000 calls a day per region, right? So that's multiple regions in the country. And the benefit was questionable. What they did is they picked their top 10% of call center advisors and asked them to work with Watson, to work with a cognitive agent. And what the result of that was that the cognitive agent, and these are their actual numbers, published in the Wall Street Journal, by the way, where 83% of questions were understood in context perfectly well. And remember, this is happening in Brazilian Portuguese, right? So it's not English only. And it was able to understand slang, it was able to understand acronyms, it was able to understand all kinds of things to be able to really give an informed response to end customers. And I'm going to jump over here. And what that resulted in is they were able to expand to significant more number of branches, and they were able to reduce the wait time down to less than 10 seconds. But why was that? Because nobody called the call center anymore. 90% of the calls were eliminated because they just consulted the cognitive agent, right? Another example. So the first was augmented intelligence. The end customer never comes in contact with the AI system. The second example is a bot, right? A simple chat bot. Now, chatbots have been implemented terribly by financial services institutions, terribly, right? Because it's not about the sex appeal of the bot itself, it's about the brain at the end of the day, right? Because what happens is if you've got a frequently asked questions database underneath it, the bot runs out of road very, very quickly, right? So what RBS is doing is they're basically using Watson capabilities and training it significantly to actually handle simple Q&A transactions, simple Q&A questions and simple transactions. I'm working with Mitsubishi Corporation in Japan, which is doing it only for mutual funds, so a bot only for mutual funds. So context, again, very, very important. And the third flavor, you can go completely crazy, right? And you can go beyond bot, and you can go to robot, right? And that's what Mizuho Bank in Japan is doing, where they have a physical robot called Pepper, by the way, and Pepper's really if you put music on, Pepper will dance and so on and so forth. So it's really like engages you in a way. And Pepper's got an iPad on his chest. And when you come into the branch, it welcomes you, it recognizes you, and it picks up the interaction and takes it further. Now, you might think this is just a gimmick, but in some markets like Japan, they have a significantly aging population. The role of the greeter in the branch cannot be fulfilled by a person anymore. It's a cost challenge. So if you ask me, all of these approaches are valid. It just depends on your commercial strategy. Augmented intelligence, direct-to-client bot, or full-on robot, right? I'm rushing here because the clock's giving me dirty looks. Let's talk about risk and compliance, right? Risk and compliance is the second area. Now, IBM bought a company recently. Many of you are working with this company called Promontory. And Promontory is basically 600 ex-regulators. No software, no actual technology assets, Why on earth are we buying a regulatory consulting company? That's because, again, the contextual understanding is so crucial. So we're leveraging Promontory to actually train Watson in the areas of know your customer, anti-money laundering, and regulatory compliance. And how's that taking place? Basically, the whole idea is, how can you speed up the efficiency of client onboarding by being able to ingest structured and unstructured data, look at it in context, and then auto-create the individual client profile or the small and medium business corporate hierarchy in an automated fashion. And then similarly, from an anti-money laundering perspective, how can you reduce false positives by check patterns and actually look at which alerts, how does alert number 10 look a lot like the first 9 alerts that I received? Let me now handle it, automate that handling. So I wanted to give you guys a sneak peek into the KYC capabilities.
Due diligence on customers in accordance with Know Your Customer guidelines requires a lot of time from a lot of people from across the bank. Analysts spend more time on manual data gathering than decision making. Using IBM Watson's cognitive capabilities, in combination with Promontory Financial Group's deep regulatory expertise, IBM is applying advanced analytic and cognitive accelerators such as intelligent robotic process automation, cognitive text analytics, entity resolution and network analytics, and machine learning to enhance initial onboarding and due diligence processes, as well as ongoing reviews from individuals to corporate clients. Let's look at a potential future scenario of how Mike, a KYC analyst, could use Watson to reduce manual work, improve efficiency, and generate a broader set of insights for more effective risk management. Mike has been asked to conduct enhanced research for several higher-risk entities. Watson is able to aggregate the data from various internal and external sources and prepare a comprehensive analysis for Mike to review. Mike can see the customer's ID has been validated against authoritative sources. In addition to doing other checks like past litigations and sanctions, Watson will also automate the capture of negative news by dynamically searching the web to aggregate, analyze, filter, and prioritize from millions of articles to highlight the most relevant information for Mike to focus on. This can save him hours of time he previously had to spend reading through various articles and sites. He can automatically export this information as evidence for the customer file. Watson can also be used to help Mike uncover hidden relationships and provide deeper insights of the potential risks that can only be surfaced through extended networks of relationships. While the initial search of the entity under review does not return any risks, as Watson dives deeper to uncover related entities and associates, Mike can see that the key principle of the entity under review is related to a company that previously was on a sanctions list, and that there's a politically exposed person associated with one of the beneficial owners. Watson has the potential to not only automate the identification of the beneficial ownership structures, but also extend screening of networks through link analysis. Finally, Mike can use Watson to auto-generate a dossier on the full corporate hierarchy, including companies and individuals. With Watson, analysts will be able to instantly make key connections that would otherwise take weeks to uncover.
And it goes on, right? You know how these corporate videos are, they go on forever. But you get the basic principle of what the solution is: aggregating information, automating the corporate hierarchy generation, and delivering that. We are actually launching the solution on the 30th of May, next week. We've already implemented those screens you see have been anonymized, and we've already implemented this solution with a large bank in the UK. So if you want any additional information, happy to share that with you. So that's KYC and AML. I also wanted to talk for a second on core regulatory compliance. So you know how regulators are, right? They're very keen, right? So what they do is they come out with brand new regulation. And what you as a financial institution have to do is to say, okay, now how do I comply with this? And how do we solve that problem is mainly by throwing people at the problem, right? Thousands of people are employed by organizations that do nothing else than read the regulation, compare it to your internal policies, and figure out what on earth is my obligation. And working with Promontory, what we've developed is a regulatory compliance analytics solution. So Watson is hungry for information, contextual information. So Watson basically can read all new regulation instantaneously, and at the same time read your own company policies, and then automate the parsing of that information and look for red flags, look for gaps. Obviously, your analyst still has to audit that information. Remember, understand, reason, and learn. If your top regulatory compliance officers work with the system, it gets better and better over time. We've implemented a number of projects in Europe recently, both on the insurance and the banking side, leveraging this solution. And similarly, there's a solution around surveillance as well. Trade surveillance, voice surveillance, communication surveillance. This is about looking for non-obvious patterns and catching bad guys, sometimes in your own organization. Hey, but I haven't spoken about payments, right? So you guys will beat me up if I don't talk about payments. So let me end on payments. In fact, let me show you a video. It'll probably say better than me.
The commercial banking industry is rapidly changing. New immediate payment schemes are challenging the traditional payment batch processing paradigms, where transactions that took hours to process now must be completed in seconds. Real-time transactions are making it more difficult to identify and react to fraud in a timely manner. Fintech firms are chipping away at the market share of banks, and the potential is becoming greater for blockchain networks to replace traditional service providers as the administrator of records and transactions. IBM Financial Transaction Manager is here to help. From assisting with these challenges to increasing revenue, IBM Financial Transaction Manager is a bank's path to business growth in the digital age. This integrated payments platform processes, monitors, tracks, and reports on financial payments and transactions in real time. It creates an integrated approach to adding new payment rails to existing transaction processing environments, making it possible to minimize operational risks and maintain legacy systems through payment convergence and the provision of real-time predictive insights. Our platform makes banks even smarter. With the addition of cognitive capabilities, you can quickly adapt real-time fraud detection to your unique customer base, resulting in a higher accuracy and fewer false positives. You gain invaluable insights into your customers' payment usage and trends. Once your systems have been unified and fraud minimized, you have the capacity to process more transactions faster with minimal risk. As the volume and variety of transactions increase, IBM Financial Transaction Manager will continue to provide a stable, resilient, and scalable application platform. A platform that allows financial institutions to continually introduce new real-time schemes and payment types, support existing and emerging transaction processing, enhance cognitive fraud detection and payment insights, and foster emerging blockchain initiatives.
So I'm going to cut the video there because, again, it's too long. However, what I wanted to tell you is that this solution, Financial Transaction Manager, is already being used extensively across the world, including here in Canada, right? So Scotiabank is one of our key users. RBC has been using Financial Transaction Manager for some time. And in the United States, the Federal Reserve committed to this platform at the end of last year. And basically, 100 million transactions are running through IBM Financial Transaction Manager, both for real-time and immediate payments, multi-currency, automated clearing, all the good stuff that we actually need to ensure, but also for ensuring safer payments. Actually, literally yesterday, we had an IBM Payments Forum in London where some of your representatives actually participated. I was supposed to do the talk there, but I preferred to come here because this is much more august audience, I should say. But it's important to say that this is a full mainstream technology already in place. And in addition to the faster payment stuff around safer payments, we acquired a company last year called Iris Analytics. Some of you might have heard of them. They have a true cognitive engine, a true AI engine that basically not only detects more fraud, but in our world, as many of you will recognize, having worked with you, a significant amount of our problem is false positives. In many banks I work with, almost 90% of their fraud alerts are false positives. They'll never tell you publicly, but I'm telling you because it's true, right? And so actually being able to manage that more efficiently is what it's all about. So I didn't mean to rush, but I had to because I know the drinks are important and I don't want to steal the time of the next speaker. But I did want to conclude where I started. If anybody in your organization is telling you we have an AI lab or an AI project, just slap them instantaneously and send them away because there's no such thing. It only makes sense if you're applying it again to a business problem. So think of where you're going to spend a ton of money anyway and look at injecting these capabilities. right? Use your existing projects, which is number 2. Use your existing data. You don't need to go and aggregate tons of external information. Of course you can, but start with leveraging what you already have, because that will give you the business case to go and get external data and use that more efficiently. And finally, I'm ready to take on any challenge to prove out the value within a 6 to 8 week period in an agile fashion, because that's the only way we can implement projects nowadays. So I'm here for the next couple of hours before I take the flight back. So if you have any questions at the drinks, I'm happy to discuss with you. And certainly we have a big IBM delegation. We only arrive in a bus. We never show up individually. So they'd be happy to talk to you as well. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Have a great conference.